how important do you think it is that we give each and every pilot the full knowledge and experience on a simulator versus allowing them to be retrained on a computer, if you will?
Well, first of all, Boeing should never be allowed to conceal information from the aviation industry, from the pilots and the public, because they did that with MCAS. 8 days after the crash of Lion Air Flight 610, they issued a flight operations manual bulletin. And even after knowing that 189 people died, they did not mention MCAS. They did not want to mention the software. And that means they were just trying to conceal the information, because when you talk of MCAS, then you talk of the design flaws in the 737 MAX. And a lot of times in our lives, we tend to rely on experiences of other people. And when Captain Solenberg spoke, he said that even knowing that, he knew that he knew what will happen, and so when he was trying to do the simulator thing, he got to understand why the pilots could not control that aircraft. And that means that just that iPad training is not enough at all. And so, what I would like, my recommendation is that the pilots should go through a simulator training, and the flight's operations manual should always disclose everything that is in an aircraft. And that should never happen again. I mean, that's criminal. Why would you conceal information of an important software that can take control of the plane? And that's what happened. MCAS took control of that plane. The pilots could not recover it, and it just dived to the ground. So that's something that this committee should look into. On April 4th, 3 weeks after the deaths of my family, in what I have since learned is a shameful pattern of behavior by Boeing and airplane manufacturers, Boeing shifted focus from the root cause of the crashes, which is the design flaws in the 737 MAX and MCAS, and started talking about foreign pilot error. This distracted from correcting the real causes of the crashes and is an insult to humanity. Boeing and their apologists want to shift scrutiny from their single-minded quest for short-term profits over safety and place it on foreign pilots who, like domestic American pilots, were left in the dark by Boeing. Would they have used the term domestic pilot error if the crash happened in the United States? The term foreign pilot error is utter prejudice and a disrespect to pilots and Boeing customers across the world. Boeing used this fallacy of foreign pilot error to avoid the grounding of the 737 MAX after the crash of Lion Air Flight 610 on October 29th last year. That decision killed my family and 152 others in the crash of Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 4 months later. The FAA should have known that the failure to have triple redundancy in critical safety systems could cause crashes and death. They recklessly left Boeing to police itself. The families demand that the 737 MAX 8 be fully recertified as a new plane because it is too different from the original certified plane. We demand that simulator training be required. Recertification must take place in combination with a full legislative fix for the aviation safety system. The FAA clearly needs a budget sufficient to fulfill safety obligations. The US Senate should only confirm a new FAA administrator if that person agrees to safety reforms. Boeing should not be allowed to act like a mere investment company, extracting wealth to supercharge shareholder returns at the expense of safety and quality. Their leadership should change in favor of engineering safety focus. Other safety critical industries have early warning system data collection with immediate responsiveness. The FAA and aviation industry need to have such systems in place. If Boeing's wrongful conduct continues, another plane will dive to the ground, killing me, you, or your children, or your members, or all other members of your family. It is you who must be the leaders in this fight for aviation safety in the world. Now, future hearings of this committee should include those who wrote the MCAS software, technical dissenters, whistleblowers, safety engineers, and families. You hear multiple testimony from pilots and unions. We, the victims' families, need to continue to be included in these hearings. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
How do we make sure that you have the trust of the industry? Because so much of this is built on trust, and this is where we see a breakdown of that trust. The fact that you have to talk about earnings and statements and bringing your professional capacity of understanding that stuff into a conversation that really centers on how do we keep people safe is, I think, part of the trust conversation. And then the other thing that when I read your testimony, the fact that you said that Boeing has never reached out to the families really stuck out to me, and I would like to hear you comment on that publicly because I think that's really important.
Well, yeah, I'll answer the second question first. Boeing, they've been in front of cameras acknowledging that there were mistakes in the installation of MCAS. Obviously, they don't talk about the flaws in the designs of the 737 MAX, and they've apologized to the families in front of cameras. Now they know who the next of kin of these victims are, but they've not come to us and they've not apologized in person. Ethiopian Airlines did send letters to us, not to apologize, but to offer their, sympathies and their messages of condolence. So the expectation is, it's hard to trust the Boeing, with their apologies, given that they've not reached out to us. And I do believe that they did that in the days leading up to the Paris Air Show, because it's for commercial reasons. I believe it's a publicity stunt that they just appeared on cameras to apologize to the families.
Yeah, I think the families are in agreement that Boeing's apologies to cameras have not been apologies to the families. We were in Ethiopia, our family, after the crash, and the Ethiopian Airlines sent letters, they invited us in, they were reaching out directly. And so it was very much warmer. And the recent offer of, $100 million to something seemed like a PR stunt to us. They never reached out to families to discuss what the needs of the families are. And on the future hearings, the technical dissenters should be heard from, those who dissented from a potential groupthink forced consensus process at FAA. If the committee has identified any, the public should hear them, not just the investigators. Any whistleblowers who may have been fired and maybe have a gag order pursuant to a settlement, who have complained about safety issues, do they have the same